Hey, welcome back to the Silent Sales Machine radio podcast. I'm your host for this episode, Ryan Rieger, and today we're chatting with Andrew McGuire. Andrew had a dream in college to one day work for a church and not take a salary because of business success. He had no idea how that was going to happen until he learned about selling on Amazon, got into it, got into our community, and quickly learned that that was going to be his path to be able to do that. He's, again, member of our Legends group. He went through our Replans training, and he is now a pastor, a youth pastor at a church plant, and does not take a salary because of his Amazon business success. He's a husband and a father to a 6-month-old. So this was a super fun interview to do. Here's my interview with Andrew. Andrew, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing really good, actually. Life is really good right now.
That's awesome. I saw that I saw your that you are in the Legends Hall of Freedom, which for guys that don't know, have a clue what that is. We essentially in the Legends group, I wanted to have like a Hall of Fame of people who have been able to quit their jobs and or are doing this full time. And said, I know there's a lot of people in this group that are doing that, and I don't know everybody that's doing that. And so Andrew gave me his photo of he and his wife Anna. Is that right? And
correct. Yep.
How old's your son?
So he's actually 5.5 months now,
Awesome.
which is crazy.
Wow, you have a lot of fun ahead of you. My son Callan is 3, and it just gets better and better and better. We can talk about that offline, but super fun. But I saw that your photo, and I needed to get your wife's name for our post, essentially congratulating you. And so I just saw some really cool things about you, that you're from Indiana, where I'm originally from, and you're a pastor at a church. And so I wanted to get to know you, and you have an awesome story already. So let's talk about that. How'd you get started selling on Amazon, and how you got into being an entrepreneur and all that?
Yeah, man, it's I look back during, I guess, like this season of the pandemic. It's really made me like think back on like life and like ponder some really special moments, because obviously we've had a kid. There's been a lot of like I guess like quiet time because you're at home the majority of time, so it gives you a lot of time to like reminisce and think. And man, it's just been really cool. Like God has been so faithful throughout my entire life. So just a short background. I grew up in ministry. My dad he's still a pastor today, but my parents are pastors, and they were pastors as a kid. And, I grew up in the church, loving, the church, and everything was really good. But there was this like spirit inside of me of being an entrepreneur. And I never knew, I guess, what that meant until college. So as a kid, I would do like, my grandparents would have like garage sales, and I would do like the corner lemonade stand, and I enjoyed like making that money. And then, there were times as a kid where I would sell some like video games, or even my video game console, to like friends, and I would get money, but my parents didn't quite understand it. They were like, well, this was like a gift for you, and now you're not going to have your games to play. And I was like, yeah, but I made this money.
Right.
And so there was always that, like, I don't know, that passion to somehow provide something to somebody, and also, get paid while doing it. And I also knew that I felt called and drawn to help lead a local church. And I wasn't sure how those two would tie together, but I pursued a degree in church leadership at Evangel University, which is in Springfield, Missouri. And essentially what my degree was, it was just a general overview of how to, effectively lead a church. And so I took, 4 years to get that degree. But while I was in college, that's where I met, my best friend, now wife, Anna. And we were having a conversation one day of like, what is life going to look like? Because we had obviously talked about, getting married. What would life look like after college? And I always had that like passion and that dream of like being an entrepreneur. And it hit me in that moment. And I just felt like the spirit impressing on me that one day you're going to own a business and you're going to be able to volunteer full time while being on staff at a church.
Wow. That's like, okay, so let's stop there first. That is like crazy outside of the box for most people who are in ministry. I've been around ministry all my life, and, sad, but a lot of folks that are in ministry don't make a whole lot of money,
Sure.
but they're doing it because they want to, and they know that they're called to be there, but they're, sometimes just barely making ends meet, and are so badly want to be able to say, don't even pay me. And because
Sure.
I love what I'm doing, I would do this for free, but I do need to feed my family too. That is so cool. So your Amazon business essentially pays all of your bills, and you don't have to take a salary from the church.
It does, yeah. So we're
Incredible.
actually part of a church plant on
Uh-huh.
the north side of Indianapolis.
Uh-huh.
And whenever we came on, they talked about, hey, we can pay you. And I just told them, like, that's not my dream, is to be able to give my time and
Yeah.
not receive any income from the church.
Wow.
Because my goal is, I want the church to be able to, people that are in ministry. I mean, again, my parents were in ministry, so I get
Mhm.
like needing to
Mhm.
make an income from that. But if I'm
Yeah.
able to say, hey, like, use that money to, give to others, to missions, to affect the world,
Wow.
that is, it's always been a dream.
That is cool. How long ago was that impressed upon you, when you were in college, right, at the time?
Yeah, so in college, that's whenever I really felt that, and
Uh-huh.
I didn't know, like, okay, I have no clue what type of business I'm gonna
Sure.
own. Again, my parents were in ministry, so that's like all
Yeah.
I really knew.
Yeah.
How do I do a business? And
How do you have
you
time to
know,
do both? A church plant is a
yeah,
ton of work.
oh for sure, yeah. And I had heard, like, my whole life, and even seen it, that like church, being in ministry, it takes up a lot of time, and you don't get paid well. So I was thinking, like, God, there's no way
Yeah.
I can do that. Like, how?
Mm,
And,
wow.
and he's worked it out.
So walk me through that. When you, at what point have you, I know you worked at another church before.
Mhm.
Um, was your Amazon business growing at the same, have you ever had to take a salary from a church, or has your Amazon business always been the sole provider?
No, actually, so where we are currently is the first time I've been able to say, you know what, you don't need to pay me an income.
That's awesome.
So the churches we were at previously, yes, we did take a salary, but it
Uh-huh.
was the church that we were at before this church plant that
Uh-huh.
I had a really close friend. He
Mhm.
told me about his Amazon business, and he was like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And he essentially just came alongside me, helped coach me, show me the ropes.
Mhm.
And I started like dabbling in it and doing it kind of as a side hustle. And I realized pretty quickly, as the majority of people here who have Amazon businesses, that this thing grows quick.
Yeah.
If you're able to reinvest, and you put the time into it, it can
Mm.
grow pretty quickly. And that's whenever I realized, and it was about well, it was January of 2019 that I
Okay.
realized, okay, I can actually do this dream and passion that God, placed on my heart.
Yeah.
And so it was, a few months of kind of building it. And then we actually made the transition off that staff and
Mhm.
on into this church plant in August of last year. So it
Okay.
was about a year ago. And since then, I
Yeah.
have not been taking an income from, a ministry position, and Amazon has been fully
Wow.
funding our house.
Wow. So that's a dream for your senior pastor, I bet, to have you on staff and not have to
Yeah.
pay you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's really cool.
I'm sure he's a big fan of Amazon now. So,
He is. It's so funny. He's very like business minded as well, and so we have
uh-huh.
tons of conversations about it. But it seems to
Yeah.
always get back to Amazon. Like, how's
Yeah.
Amazon affecting you? Like, how's it going? It's really cool.
Wow. So
Yeah.
did you start Amazon, and that's in January of 2019 is when you had the light bulbs go off that this could be the thing. When did you start selling on Amazon?
So I actually started in October of 2018. So
Okay.
it was about 4 months
Okay.
um, before
Okay.
that light bulb clicked.
How'd you find about you, because your friend at church introduced you to Amazon? Okay.
Correct. Yep. So he had showed me what he was doing, and I thought, like, well, if I could do this as a side income, that would be great.
Yeah.
That dream never, it didn't cross my mind in that moment, because I
Sure.
wasn't necessarily like looking for that.
Uh-huh.
God shared that with me in college,
Uh-huh.
and I kind of like was like, all right, you're really gonna have to just just lay it out before me
Right.
and so I hadn't been searching. And so,
Uh-huh.
yeah, so I started dabbling in it. And then in January, it really clicked.
That's cool. Talk about what would you start doing as far as methods of inventory? What does that business, what's your business look like?
Sure. So whenever I first started in October, he had really shown me the RA side, so retail
Okay.
arbitrage,
Uh-huh.
going into a store, and really was all clearance items.
Okay.
That's what he did, and still to this day, that's all he does, which is really cool. But our business has transitioned a little bit. So the first year, so October, well, I guess it was until January of this year, I've always done RA clearance.
Okay.
But I attended the Proven Conference in 2019
Okay.
in Champaign, I
Yep.
believe that's where it was.
Yep.
And so I heard Jimmy talk about Refunds,
Yeah.
and I started thinking like, okay, if I'm going to be, serving in ministry full time,
Mhm.
and I need to grow this Amazon business, I'm not going to be necessarily able to go and just find a bunch of clearance items.
Right.
Like, sure, that works for a lot of people and it's great. Like, you can make some really great profit off of those. But at the same time, if
Mhm.
I'm able to have like inventory that I can have a shopper go continually buy, or I can have a virtual assistant,
Mhm.
find products, then
Mhm.
it becomes a lot less time consuming, and I'm able to devote that time to the church while also growing my Amazon business. So
Wow.
this year, January of 2020, I really switched to the Replan model, and that's what I've been doing since.
Wow. Okay. So talk about that. Pretend like I don't know anything about replens, because I know we talk
Yep.
about that a lot in this podcast and this whole community. But there's a lot of folks that this is going to be their first episode that they listen to, Andrew. So tell me about what replens are, and if I'm a brand new person, I've never heard that before.
Sure. Well, it is such an amazing method and way of doing Amazon. Let me just first say that. But essentially, what it is it's finding products that people will continually buy, and it's not necessarily the same person purchasing an item. So whenever somebody looks on Amazon, they may search for some cake mix,
Hmm.
and they may continually buy that cake mix
Sure.
every single month to
Right.
make cake for people. But at the same time, it may just be that cake mix sells consistently
Yeah.
every month, and it may just be different people buying that, and
Right.
so it's purchasing that product that's going to continue to sell. And a replen
Hmm.
essentially means you go and you buy it again and again and again because it's
Yeah.
consistently selling, whereas
Yeah.
a clearance item, you can probably only find one, two, three, maybe
Sure.
every quarter they put that on clearance again.
Hmm.
But it's the replen it's a replenishable product, so you
Yeah.
can continually buy it. It consistently sells.
You nailed it. It's you did it. You hit it, the two sides of it, that it's something that sells consistently, but also that you can source consistently. And you mentioned clearance. That's a great business model. Clearance is great because you have some great margins, but you may
Oh, for
have to
sure.
shop at all of the stores around the whole Indianapolis area. You might even need to travel back to Illinois, Champaign, and like buy up all those, and you're gone for a long time. And that's just not congruent with being able to help a church get started. And so the
So
replan
true.
model is perfect for that. And guys, it could be cake mix, something that that we consistently buy every month, or it could be a hammer, something that I buy it, and then Andrew goes and buys it,
Sure.
Jimmy goes and buys that same hammer, and that means it sells consistently. But also, guys, these are regular retail items. Like Andrew is being able to find them off. That's not clearance stuff. He goes to the regular retail shelf and can find these things that are still profitable. So it is a game changer. It really is.
It definitely is.
Wow. So talk about, if you don't mind sharing some sales figures with us, what's your sales been over the last, since you started doing replens?
For sure. Yeah. So since I started doing replens, um, we did, well, in January, we did about 13,000.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah.
February, February was actually whenever our son Archie, he was born.
Uh-huh.
So obviously I took, several weeks off for that.
I love that name.
Um,
That's awesome too.
Archie Richard. So Richard
Archie Richard.
are
I love it.
both of our dad's names, and
Okay.
so anyways, yeah. So yeah, we did about 13 in
Uh-huh.
January.
Uh-huh.
February, it dropped a little bit because obviously I took the majority of the month off. It was
Uh-huh.
around 11.
Uh-huh.
March, we really started seeing the increase from the COVID effect.
Yeah.
And so we climbed to, it was about 16, which is about 4,000 more than February. In
Awesome.
April, we went from 16 to 38,000
Wow.
in sales.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I was in shock. So that month I was able to hire 2 packers as well, which is
Okay.
really great. Took a lot of that pressure off.
Yeah.
We did, obviously the majority was merchant fulfilled,
Okay.
which we're still doing a big portion of right now. But
Mhm.
actually in May 5th, I'll never forget the date, our
Mhm.
account was suspended.
Oh no.
Yeah. And so we had seen a huge month in
Uh-huh.
April, and
Uh-huh.
May was hit pretty hard because of our suspension. It was a
Mhm.
IP claim that thankfully got resolved. It was
Okay.
retracted, but it was
Uh-huh.
45 days without a sale.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that went until middle, late June.
Okay.
And June was obviously a really low month because we only had the last week or so.
Sure.
And then in July, we were back up, not as high, but we did 26,000 in
Okay.
July.
Love it.
So we're slowly making
Yeah, you'll make it
the
back up.
transition back up.
What are your most your replan? What category are you mostly selling?
So a lot of it is, um, we sell a lot of like art supplies,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
craft supplies. We do right now there's a lot of groceries, just
Mm-hmm.
because, people are really buying online. So we do a lot
Okay.
of groceries, a lot of art supplies, and
Okay.
we do home and kitchen as well. But I would say
Okay.
those are our three biggest categories.
So let's say that I come up to Indianapolis with you, and I've never done this before, and you need to teach me how to do this because I know we talk a lot on this podcast about how somebody's doing it, and we talk a little bit about some tips and things. But walk me through this. Like, what if you were going to go into a store with me, and because you've helped some family and friends get started on Amazon. How do you get them started? Like, you walk into a store, there's so many options. It can be so overwhelming. Like, where do I even begin to look? So where would you take me?
No, that's a really great question. So, I try to tell people in different spots, say, hey, you try this spot first. You try, because I don't want to
Uh-huh.
obviously have everybody searching the same thing. But
Hmm.
what I really tell people is start in obviously a category that you're not restricted in. So you want to
Okay.
obviously make sure that first, because I've had a couple people that said, well, I'll start with grocery, and then come to find out they had just started Amazon and they're
Right.
restricted in grocery. And so,
Hmm.
but basically what I tell them is, hey, find an aisle and
Hmm.
just start from top to bottom.
Okay.
And we've talked a lot about that with this podcast, but
Yeah.
type it in, type the product in, type the brand name, type
Uh-huh.
or type type the type of product.
Hmm.
Um, and if it is a food category or a liquid, the ounces, you want to
Hmm.
get as much details, but as also as broad as possible to start with,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
obviously dive deeper into those details. One thing that I really enjoy doing is I'll try to find a product. So if I'm sourcing an aisle, and let's say I find a decent Replan, what I'll do is
Hmm.
I'll favorite it in the Amazon seller app,
Okay.
or whatever sourcing app I'm using.
Hmm.
And whenever I get home, what I do is I'll pull out my computer, I'll go to Amazon.com, and I'll type
Okay.
in that same product. And I
Okay.
try to find different listings, see if there's a
Mhm.
variety pack, a bundle, a
Yeah.
set, that is selling better than the one I actually found. Because right now,
Yeah.
and I heard some other people mention this, right now it seems like there's so many more listings that you can find through the Amazon web browser,
Yes.
than you're able to find in the seller app, and vice versa. There's
Yeah.
some that you can find in the seller app that you can't necessarily find because maybe they're sold
Right.
out or whatever. But I always try
Right.
to do the back end of a rabbit trail of finding other
That's a
listings of that
huge
same
tip right there.
product.
Guys, that right there, what he just said, made this whole time that you're listening to this podcast worth it. That tip, because you're going to find things on your browser on Amazon.com that you might not find on the app for whatever reason right now. That's awesome. So, talk about that, because you might find, I know Jimmy talks about AIM toothpaste. So, if you're in the toothpaste aisle and you find a listing that might be good, you actually could sell that same exact toothpaste maybe on 3 or 4 other listings, right?
Oh, for sure, easily. So we'll just give an example. If it is AIM toothpaste,
Uh-huh.
and I find a listing for one of those, or maybe a 2-pack, I'll
Hmm.
go home and I'll type in AIM toothpaste in the ounces, and
Uh-huh.
every time it seems like I find at least 5 to 10 different listings to get on. Some may be
Yeah.
bundled with a toothbrush that I could find
Yes.
in that same store.
Right.
And so yeah, there's tons of opportunity there.
Yeah. So guys, that is, if that'll help you get off, Andrew, I have a lot of people that feel like, man, they don't just quite can wrap their mind around the replens thing, or they don't understand how Jimmy finds 30 replens in 30 days. Well, I actually think you can probably find 30 replens in 2 days. With this
For sure.
strategy right here, what you just said, you find one product, you find one product, you can sell it in on one listing, do the research, because there may be 5, 6, 7, 8 other listings that you can sell that exact same product on, and you've just found 8 with one SKU, one not with one product essentially. So
Yeah, and it's that. I think that was the moment, because at first, like, replens, it can be so, like, I don't know, like this huge concept that you're trying to wrap your mind around.
yeah,
Okay, how do I do this? I can't find any. Or you
yeah,
might find one and you're like, well, man, it's a return on investment of 10% or
hmm
20%. Like,
hmm
my business can't do that right now, I'm just
sure,
starting out. And so
right,
what I've found is, yeah, even if you find something at 10 or 20%, don't just disregard it. Take a
yeah,
note of it, set it as a favorite, go home and do your research to find a different listing, because I'm telling you, 80% of the time you're going to find multiple listings.
that's brilliant. That's the golden nugget, one of the golden nuggets from this podcast episode, right? That is brilliant. Um, what are you looking for? I know everybody's business is different. For you, what are you looking for as far as an ROI percentage?
Yeah, so we really try to set on 50%.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
really our goal. We've gotten to the place where we have a decent amount of capital. I wouldn't say we have
Hmm.
a huge capital to be able
Hmm.
to drop it any lower than that, but we're able to do about 50%.
Yeah.
There's a few, if they sell really well, we will drop under that, but it has to
Mhm.
be a really good sales rank.
That's good. So if you're
So that would
buying
kind
something
of be
for
our normal.
$10, if you spend $10 on something, you want to make $5, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, that's a good number to shoot for, guys. And there you'll find people in our community that like will only go for 100% return on investment. And you can do
Sure.
that. You just may not be able to scale a business like that. You're going to have to, in order to find more products and grow, most likely going to have to reduce that lower. And 50 is a good number. There's not really, guys. There's not a right or wrong. It really
Sure.
depends on what you're looking for. Would you rather make $5 on $10 or $2 on $10? Well, both. But if you only have one $10 bill, I'd rather go for the five, and find more fives than twos. Ultimately, all profit's good, but also then it comes down to how fast you turning that around. You don't
Right.
want your money sitting there forever. What's your turnaround time? We don't talk a lot about that. How do you? And if you don't know those numbers, that's okay, because some people don't look that deep. But any idea of how fast your inventory's turning?
So what we're sending into, so we do both methods of merchant fulfilled
Uh huh.
and fulfillment by Amazon.
Uh huh.
The things that we send to FBA right now, it's so hard to tell
Yeah.
because time. I mean, I sent a shipment in as soon as my account opened up in
Hmm.
the end of June that
Hmm.
still has not been checked in.
Oh my
I
gosh.
also, yeah, it's crazy. I also sent in a huge shipment last week where some of it has already been checked in. So
Okay.
it's super weird. As far as if we're just talking about merchant fulfilled,
Uh-huh.
I would say our longest product that would sit in our inventory is about 2 days.
Wow.
It turns really quick.
That's awesome.
And, and it's been really cool because obviously the quicker that turns around. So we use, for those who know about it, we use payability,
Okay.
which essentially they're
Yeah.
able to give you your cash advance
Yeah.
every every day. They
Uh-huh.
give that to you, and so because our products are turning over so quickly, we're able to get that cash back and then be able to invest more. And so we've used it almost like a snowball effect
Uh-huh.
of, we can flip this really quick. And then in the long run, we can buy more and more product for FBA to send
Sure.
in because it's taking longer to actually get checked in.
Yeah. So you're in a position now where you live off of your Amazon business, and we don't just kind of curious because a lot of people get into this as a hobby, Andrew, and they're like, I just want to make some extra cash. And then it turns into a serious business like you have now. And like, wow, I've never ran a business before. I don't know how much to take out. And I still want to grow it, but I still also want to be able to take money out and eat.
Sure.
Any advice on that part of it? Like, how does somebody know like how much I can pull out of the business to live off of and still continue to grow it?
No, that's a really good question. The tip that I give everybody that, ask me, or, people that are curious, is the method that we use profit first.
Okay.
And it's completely changed our business. Just a short window of it. Essentially, it means you take your profit before anything else. And it designates, how much you should put into your pay, or,
Okay.
expenses, just all the different components of a
Mhm.
business.
Mhm.
And whenever you take that, essentially what it's saying is, as you take that profit first, it's going to give you more motivation to continue working in your business.
Yes.
And it walks you through how to build it. So there's a book called
Mhm.
Profit First that
Mhm.
I would
Mhm.
recommend if you're
Yeah.
in this conversation right now, that you're wondering, like, how can I start paying myself? It's a
Yeah.
book, Profit First, by
Mhm.
Mike.
Mhm.
I can't remember his last name, but it's so
Kalowitz or
good.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Uh-huh.
It's been so good for our business. That's what we
Awesome.
use to know how much money
Brilliant. When
to
you
put
were
in our bank
first
account.
starting and you put all your money back into the business when you were still working at the other church, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Mm.
So actually, my wife is she's a social and emotional counselor at a middle
Uh-huh.
school,
Uh-huh.
and so that's what she does. So actually, until it was, well, right before our business got suspended, is whenever I started taking money out, and
Okay.
then it pushed it obviously back a little bit. But we had reinvested everything from our Amazon business,
Yeah.
until the middle of this year, to be able to start, covering our bills, because we're doing other things with her money that she's making, for our
Yeah.
household. So my Amazon
Awesome.
business is paying the bills, getting things done that need to be taken
Love it.
care
Is
of.
she still working?
She actually is. Yep.
Okay.
So she, um, the virus, it's obviously, it's bitter. I would say it's bittersweet in some
Mhm.
circumstances,
Yeah.
but it gave her essentially 6 months of maternity leave, because she took
Yeah.
off, a little bit for whenever Archie was born. And then,
Mhm.
everything with the schools and stuff has given her way more time off. But yes, she's back, and she's still working as a school counselor.
Wow. Does she have to go out of the home to go work?
She does. Yep.
Yeah.
So they are meeting right now, in
Okay.
person. So we'll
Yeah.
see if that'll continue or not.
Interesting. Wow. Man, I love your story. I know that I just saw it in the Legends group. How'd you get into the Legends group, by the way?
So at the Proven conference,
Uh-huh.
I met, a couple people,
Uh-huh.
and we were just talking about their business, and they
Yeah.
mentioned that they were a part of Legends, and
Oh,
I had
okay.
never really heard about it,
Okay.
but it piqued my interest. So I went home, did some research,
Yeah.
and I, finally made the investment. And Legends has changed my business.
Mm.
I've learned so much. Every day it feels like I'm constantly learning, new sourcing strategies or new business ideas. It's been so good for our business.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, I heard it from somebody, and then made
Glad
the
to hear
investment.
that. We got that Walmart course we just finished last night in the Legends group. So
Yes.
need to get over and put your stuff on Walmart too. That's will be a whole nother stream of income for you.
Yeah. So I applied, just waiting to hear
Awesome.
back.
Love it. Good job. So Andrew, well, let's wrap this up here. What advice would you give people who are just starting out, who like want to be where you are? They want to be able to be at home with their son, their family, and they've seen your success. They're like, yeah, I want that. How would you? What advice or encouragement would you give them?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I would say a couple things. I would say the first thing is, if that's where you're trying to get, then start today. I know, I know for a lot of things, like, especially me and my personality, I can tend to push things off if I know that there's a possibility it won't work. I could say, well, tomorrow or next week or next month, whenever things kind of get in line. But I would say, man, if you're trying to get there, like, start today, and then really focus on your connections that you can have with people. So, start asking questions to people that you see in the Facebook group, like, private
Yeah,
message them, and
that's good.
and really just start to just build that connection. That's probably the biggest thing for me is I have a lot of connections that I've built with people who do Amazon. And so
Mm-hmm.
not only has it helped my business, it's helped them, but it's really given us this intertwining where we can have conversations and, I learn things from them, they learn things from me. And it's really pushed my
Mm-hmm.
business to the next level of not just being content with where I am. It
Right.
always pushes me to get better and better. So I would say those
Good.
two things is,
Yeah.
don't wait until tomorrow. And then,
That's right.
some of those relationships.
Guys, that is huge. The relationships has been key for my business. To get in community, this My Silent Team Facebook community is amazing. We love to help people. And that's I'll put a link, make sure the link in the show notes for that group, because it's a totally free group of people who are just love to help each other out, and that's what we're here to do. And Andrew, I love your story. Thank you for being willing to share it, because I know we've talked a lot about some of the same stuff that you've mentioned, like the replens. Of course, we've had a lot of people on that's been their way, their path to freedom. But you may say it in a way that somebody just finally gets it. Or
Mm.
I may be, I don't know how old you are, but you're younger than me. But let's say put myself back, and I'm 30 years old, and I see, you know what, all these older people are mentioned. Yeah, they can do it for whatever reason, but I get it because this guy said it, and I identify with him. I'm also from the Midwest or whatever. There's just reasons why we need others people's stories, because you're going to say it in a way that just allows somebody else to understand it and finally take action. So thank you for doing
Yeah.
that. Thank you for being
Oh, for
willing to
sure.
share. Of
No doubt. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
course. Well, I want to get an update from you in a year and see where you are. You'll be on multiple channels and doing coaching and all that type of stuff. So eager to see it.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's
Thanks for being on
exciting
with me.
for sure.